So, welcome to The Forging, our first podcast where trials refine us and stories ignite strength. And I've got my first guest here, Mr. Kerry Packer. Kerry, who has diced with death, with duty and deliverance. And Kerry, it's marvellous to have you here. Wonderful to have you.
It's great to be here, Greg. It really is. And I'm smiling like a Cheshire cat. A, because I love your company, but B, this is really exciting, isn't it?
It is, and just I suppose just for a bit of backlog and contrast. And when I was first thinking about this, Kerry was the first guy I thought about. We've got a long history through rugby and jaunts in the Navy as well.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from you, Kezel. And I'm not going to say too much to blow hot wind up his arse. And
I apologise for that, Greg. I'm sorry.
But look, there's so much in your brain. We're having a chat before we press record, and we were just there was lots coming out already. I suppose, look, Kerry, just for the audience, obviously I know you incredibly well, but could you give us an introduction to you, who you are, where you've come from, kind of a brief look at your upbringing, and to not your whole story to now, but the facets of your character, kind of what's made you who you are.
Okay, well, hello everyone. And thank you, Graham, for inviting me to be the first guest. It's a huge honour. To those millions who are now watching, I say welcome. I was born in Doncaster to an RAF father and an ex-RAF mother. She was a physical trainer in the RAF, and my dad was an airframes engineer on the Vulcans. I was born at RAF Finningley, which is now Robin Hood Airport in Yorkshire, and grew up in and around air stations throughout my young life. And at the age of 18, I ran off to sea to join the Navy, having had a fantastic time at school. And I'm aware that not everyone has a great time at school. Many people I talk to talk about, thank God I got out. But for a particular part of my life, I could quite easily have been the Groundhog Day kid that just kept going back to the 5th year at school.
Oh, wow.
I was playing sport. I really got on with the teachers, most of whom played for the local rugby club where I was playing rugby. On the Wednesday I'm getting detention. On the Friday I'm being told I can't go in detention because I'm needing a rugby training. And then I'm on the lash on the Saturday with the same teachers who I should have been in detention with. I suppose privileged is a word I use a lot, but I had a really privileged upbringing because I played sport. I was put together in such a way that allowed me to play sport. My dad was a rugby player. My mum, obviously, as I said, was a physical trainer. So she was diving. She did swimming. She did water polo. He did water polo. You know, they both did a massive amount of sport, and I was born that way.
You're an absolute specimen, Keith.
Well, thank you.
Just physically, you were always a very big character in and around the rugby club. Of course, you played having first team as well as the Navy. But sorry, get back.
No, absolutely fine. So yeah, that was my upbringing, basically around sport and health and fitness, which was sort of a necessary addendum to that. Joined the Navy just past my 18th birthday, straight away with the rugby pedigree I had. I'd been really fortunate in having a season with the under-21s at Leicester Tigers at the age of 16. I was really lucky.
Awesome. Yeah.
A friend of a friend said, come along and have a trial, had the trial played for him. And it was brilliant. For a year, I was being dropped off at the Newark roundabout by my old man, and Dusty Hare and Rory Underwood would pick us up in the car, me and Alex, my oppo, who was the second row. And we'd drive to Tigers, we'd train, and we'd sit in the back like two gobsmacked youngsters. And of course, Rory Underwood and Dusty Hare would be spinning bits about the Five Nations, as it was back then, in the front seat, about how he missed a kick or how he scored the try. And you're thinking, wow. So I had that pedigree when I joined the Navy, and that stood me in really good stead through my basic training. I was immediately pretty much sucked into the Royal Navy squad, sort of, if you like, 1986. And for the next 13 years, I was in and out of the Navy squad. So I was already recognised as a potential player at that age. Through that, I was also, through rugby, picked up for Devonport Field Gun and ran Devonport Field Gun the year after I joined the Navy.
You were in the field gun team straight away? Within a year?
Yeah. I was playing in what was known as you know, the Dockyard Derby, Devonport Services, United Services, and down in Plymouth. A couple of the big lads from Devonport said, who's that lad playing in the centre? That's Kerry. And just got chatting. This is the story for later in the podcast, possibly. But I signed up for Devonport incorrectly, thinking I was just signing for field gun. But it's a whole different story. And that set me off on my field gun journey. So within a year of being in the Navy, I've already established myself as a relatively decent field gunner, a sport which I had no idea about when I joined up. And I'm already in the Navy rugby squad. I'm already on the pathway to becoming a physical trainer. Again, that was preordained because I was doing A-levels. I couldn't spell A-levels, Graham. So I said I was only doing A-levels because I wanted to become a PE teacher by going to Loughborough University. And when I was at Loughborough, I could then play for Leicester Tigers. Now I had this class of playing for Tigers, but A-levels was not for me. So I did my O-levels. A guy at Tigers was actually the chief who worked in the careers office.
Right.
He said to me think about physical training at Royal Navy. They're recruiting again next year, which was 1986. And I went, okay, I'm in. So I left school on a Wednesday. I said to my then maths teacher, Keith Elms, and if you're watching, Keith, thank you so much. I consider him a father figure. He's a lovely, lovely bloke. He said, good luck, Robbie. And I walked into town about 4 miles, walked in and sat down with this guy, Jeff, I think his name was. And he showed me through the application form or the request form to undergo physical training aptitude test. I've not even joined the Navy yet. He folded up and he said, when you get in the Navy, that's the area there. And he put a circle around it. You get your DO to stamp and sign there. And then you'll go on your PT aptitude, which you'll no doubt pass. And then you can go and become a PDI once you've done your aptitude.
Awesome.
So I've, wind the clock forward to 1986. I've joined up. They've shaved my head. They've put me through basic training. The Lieutenant Wren at the time, Officer Wren, I apologise, at the time, said to me, okay, what do you want to be then, Mr. Packer? And she hadn't opened my file. I said, I want to be a PDI, please, Mum. And she said, oh, there's loads of stages. You've got to get a trade, get on aptitude, pass your aptitude. And I went, can I stop you there, Mum? I've just come back from HMS Temeraire in Pitt Street. And the fact that I used the name of the establishment and the street, and I literally just finished 10 or 11 weeks of basic training, she opened her file and went, you have actually passed your aptitude.
I see. Right,
so she put me into the mine warfare cadre, which was it was overboard basically, so I could get in and out of it quickly. It was from there that I ran field, and it was from there probably within 12 months of being on the mine warfare vessel, I was at Nelson on the main gate getting ready to go on PT course at the end of 1988.
And you were, what, 18 then?
Was I then? Just turned 20. Probably just turned 20 when I was going on PT course for the first time. I broke my foot on PT course, ironically, at an England under-21 trial, which Temeraire didn't want to let me go. And you know who you are? They didn't want to release me because I was on a professional course. Yeah. And I stood in front of the colonel, who ironically was also the selector and chairman of Navy Rugby at the time. So I knew him, Colonel Story, lovely bloke.
Yeah.
And I believe he sadly passed a few years ago. Lovely bloke. He wanted to let me go, but had to respect the staff officer's decision. And I said to him, sir, with all due respect, when am I going to get another one of these? And I showed him the letter from the English RFU saying, dear Robert Packer, you have been selected for. I said, when am I going to get another one of them? And he went, all right. And I was known as Rob and Kerry at the time. He said, all right, Robert, leave it with me. And within a day I was released. I went to the trial. I provisionally got selected for the game in 6 months' time, but I broke my foot. In the final act of the final part of the training session, I turned to move and a stress fracture went in my right foot. So on the Monday morning, I rocked up on the steps of Temeraire in a pot. They booted me straight off course. I went across the Sultan, licking my wounds, going, well, that's that one gone.
Was that where you to jump in there? So was that your first test? As you know, you kind of, it sounds like you were fairly untouchable by that point. You're a big physical specimen, loved school because of sport. You were trialling for Leicester as a young lad. You know, you'd been sharing a car with Dusty Hare and Underwood. So you were kind of so this was kind of your first kind of real test for you mentally. How did you deal with that then, or was it just in your stride? You knew everything was fine.
Looking back at it, it's a valid point, and looking back on it, I have thought that many times. But at the time, it was a thing. Because I was so young and naive, even as a young lad who's been playing rugby, I would consider myself to be not particularly streetwise. I just played a lot of sport and I was good at sport, so I got away with stuff. I didn't get picked on at school, so I was never bullied, so I didn't have any coping mechanisms there. Because I was 6'2" and 15 stone even then. Big and daft, not particularly aggressive. I wasn't in the gangs or anything. I just did my sport. Yeah. So when that occurred, I remember being very, very sad, thinking, is that the end of my rugby career to start with? And then I suddenly realised, hang on a minute, you can still play on Saturdays, you can still play county rugby. I'd still have every intention of going up to Havant, because obviously Brian Powell was the then coach of Havant. He turned out to be my first chief PDI when I left Temeraire. Right. So he was not only my chief PDI, he was my Navy coach and he was my Havant coach. So suddenly I accelerated away again and went straight back into playing rugby. So what was it a challenge I consciously had to deal with? No, not really. That was more about the fact that I'd already done 3 months on PT course, which was incredibly tough. And I had to do it all again. All the rope burns and the vaulting and the old ironing socks and, the discipline. So all of that was kind of, I've got to do that all again. And then I was over it.
So just, those were different times. We're talking late 80s. But also just the way that we approached challenges, I suppose. How would Kerry Packer deal with that as an 18-year-old today, 20-year-old today? Do you think it'd be any different? Do you think there are the ways in which we went about life back then that we could learn this time again, or do you think we have advanced? Do you think we've evolved to a better state today? And
Well, thinking about the organisations I was involved with, I don't think that situation would have arisen, because should Kerry Packer go to the same people today to go, can I go on a rugby trial? They go, absolutely, of course you can. That'd be fantastic for the Navy. And don't worry about getting injured. We'll keep you on course and you'll pass out anyway. Because you could become an asset to the Navy and then move on into, playing for Northampton Saints like the hooker does, Samantha Basie.
Yeah.
Is a great advert for the Royal Navy. So that I think wouldn't have arisen in today's culture, because today's culture says, let's get him out there. Let's get our name on the program. But I do think that back then, I'm not going to say that we were tougher back then. We didn't have the avenues to go down to explore, to say, do you know what, I'm feeling a bit down. Can I talk to somebody? Because you just got the old man up wet pants, life in a blue suit, man up wet pants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
come on, just get on with it.
That was it. Yeah.
And you
but
did.
Is there something to be said for that, or do you think that kind of just pushed too much back and then ended up with these explosions later?
I think it's context, isn't it? Certainly from my perspective, because in an 80-minute game of rugby, you've got to get on with it.
Yeah.
You've just been smashed backwards by a double man tackle, and you think straight away, within a millisecond, you've gone through humiliation, anger, frustration at yourself and at the fact that you were given the ball in the first place because you didn't want it, because these two were...
it's not really a scrum up. Did it. Oh, no, I'm back.
And you've done the same. You've been the guy in the two tackle where you've smashed him. You feel great. And you've been the guy that's been completely muggered.
Absolutely.
But you're over it straight away and into the next phase. It's gone. It's next job. In field goal, you've got a 1 minute 20, 1 minute 25 second run out. If you make a mistake, it's gone. You can never get that double hook on back. So get on with it.
Right, just quickly. So field gun. Lots of anyone, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to get you in first as well, because obviously we're in Portsmouth, the home of the Royal Navy, and fortunately for me, I've rubbed shoulders with lots of top chaps who have experienced great things, but command field gun is something that I look back on, and the last run was in 1999 for budgetary reasons. It was taken away from the Navy, but I've spoken to many old and bold who have incredible stories of kind of utter pain, devastation, and that resilience to carry on, missing fingers, broken bones, but knowing that actually the pride is so strong. I don't care. I've got 3 broken ribs, but I am going to Wells Court or doing the Edinburgh Tattoo. So just if you can briefly explain what command field gun is, could you do that in
I will try.
couple, 3 minutes for people who don't understand it? Because it's one of the most insane sports I've ever known or seen, and I am in awe of everyone that did it. So.
Well, it's rooted, as you know, from the 1899 incident in the Boer War, where Ladysmith was under siege by the Boers, and HMS Powerful and HMS Terrible were on the East India Station off Durban, and they were commanded by the Admiralty to take guns and relieve Ladysmith. That was the simple order. So from the ships, they took the smallest of the guns they could, which were the 12-pounders. These were mounted on the ship, so they had to hacksaw these things off the ship, construct carriages and wheels and limbers in which the ammunition went. They took them by train so far inland, but then for the last, I believe, 120, 130 miles, they had to manhandle them. The Blue Jackets had to manhandle. They used oxens and they used manpower just to drag these guns and limbers to Ladysmith across ravines and rivers and all sorts of, horrible terrain.
Yeah.
They got to Ladysmith in time. They relieved the siege. King Victoria was overjoyed, demanded that in 1900 the actual guns were paraded through, I think, Crystal Palace at the time.
Right.
So they literally did a lap of the arena, and everyone stood there in very Victorian fashion, clapping and shouting hurrah and raising bowler hats. This over time evolved into a competition. Let's do it a bit faster. Let's throw in a wall. Can we fire the guns? Can we have 2 crews doing it? Can they race? And slowly over time it turned into the command field gun competition run by 4 commands: Chatham, Devonport, Portsmouth and the Fleet Air Arm. And then Chatham fell away as Chatham Dockyard shut. And up until 1999, it was run between the 3 major dockyards, the 2 dockyards and the Fleet Air Arm.
So were you Wafu?
I was Portsmouth. I was originally Devonport, as I explained that. Yeah. I got it wrong. I made a mistake. If you want me to spin the dick, because a couple of the lads are still out there, they'll be giggling. And then that was 1987. I was in the A crew for a good period of time, and finished up running B crew at the court. And then in 92, 95, 97, 99, I ran for Portsmouth, and I was also the crew PDI in 98.
Wow, so you did four A crews?
4 A crews, 1 B crew was PDI, during which time I ran for the crew as well.
So you've given us a really good insight into the background, the historical context of field gun. But what I want now is, why was it the toughest sport on this planet? Because I've heard the stories of the weight of the wheels, the limber, putting the gun together again, the pulling on the drags through right at the end, so you're sprinting with masses of weight on it. But it's, took the flying angel, the cross bracing, all of that stuff. Well, when I was at US Sportsbook, I'd speak to Pat and lots of the lads there about it, and I'd always find it incredibly fascinating, just knowing that. I remember there's a documentary on TV which showed the Portsmouth team training in the marshes and doing sort of sprints, but literally knee deep in marsh mud, going out and back. It's incredible. You must have been elite level fitness, because you were strong enough to bench 150 kilos, but you'd have the cardiovascular system of 1,500-meter runner. It's really great how you were developed like that. So talk to me about how tough the sport was.
Incredibly tough. It's physically the hardest thing I've ever put my body through. And I think the advantage of being a first timer and going to a sport you have no concept. I'd never even seen the Woodridge Report, which is the documentary you're referring to. So I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I was told it was chucking guns and limbers. I didn't know what a limber was. Chucking guns and limbers over walls, and you put the rig up. So it was just words. It was a thing that I was going to do. And rugby for me was a joy to play, because it's the ball and it's the wonder of the pass and it's the kick and it's the tackle. And it was all about body weight. Suddenly I was in a situation where I'm having to pick up bars that have got 17 kilograms on them, and I've never pressed 17 kilograms either end. And I'm doing mill press and arm curls, and I was a 19-year-old spindly chap. Then we go out on the track,
Kerry,
and the equipment is a ton's worth of equipment. So you get this drag rope, and you're told, right, what we're going to do, when on my go, we're going to run down the drags, we're going to run down the straight, get the gun and limber around the corner, and stop there. Everyone happy? Yes, number one. Go. You go to run, and it won't move, because it's heavy. Yeah. And you suddenly go, and then it moves. But now you're already exhausted because of that initial muscular movement. And you've got another 15 paces before you get there. And you suddenly get to this realization, and I've got to go round, over, up, across, down, through, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here we go then.
18 in a team, isn't it?
18 in a crew, and the gear is incredibly heavy, and it's a bit of kit that wants to take your finger off, crush you, bang you, bump you, bruise you, break you. Obviously, it's inanimate, but you know what I mean? In your head. If you get it wrong, you've got to run into something to get it moving. It's made of wood and steel. It's going to win every time, unless you are braced, padded, experienced, toughened, whatever. And you just, over time, you realise that in order to get this thing moving under control, so I don't hurt you, and I do my job correctly, I've got to be actually physically violent towards this kit and angry to get it going, controlled. But to be passive and to be, let's just take a breath, it's not going to work. You've got to physically want to get that gun over the wall under control and not let it take control of you, and that kind of stuff. So it's so difficult to explain how physically tough it is, because unless you physically try and pick something up that you know is too heavy for you, but you probably could if you really tried.
Yeah.
Pushing a car that's broken down, for instance.
Yeah.
How many people have actually done it? When you try it, you realise that even a Nissan Micra is quite heavy if you're on your own.
The aggression thing's absolutely key.
Very slow. But when you say, come on, get on with it, and bang, the mother's lifting cars off babies, all those analogies that you hear, it's true. You've got to tap into that under control, because you're not just getting angry to shift the kit. You've got to do it in such a way that when you've done that bit of drill, the kit only goes to there, because that needs to be done by him. And if you get it too far, he can't do that.
It's a real marriage of being concentrating the whole time as well. You can't get too aggressive, because you become too emotional.
Impact on somebody else's.
So your optimal aggression, optimal concentration to then fulfill everything. So all the time when you're moving this kit about, and there were deaths, people died.
There was a death on the Portsmouth track.
Is it the
again, I now know the full the individual had been told time and time and time again not to do what he was doing. And unfortunately, on this particular occasion, he did it again, and all of the holes lined up in the Swiss cheese. He was in just the right position for that to just hit him on the back of the head, and it killed him instantly.
God rest his soul. Yeah.
But of course, everyone else around him's thinking, we've just seen that. So today, you have counselling, you have this, that, and the other, and if you've been affected by this, ring this hotline and all. Quite rightly, I guess.
Yeah.
But at that time, I told that twat not to do it, right? They mourned for a day and they were back on the track the following day.
Do you think so? That would have been devastated. That's a teammate,
massive.
and that a teammate. But it's kind of right. Well, we've still got a job to do. We've got to get on with it. We can't sit here just licking our wounds. That wouldn't happen today, would it? That wouldn't happen today. I can't imagine.
You tell me what would happen today. There's been a death on a field gun track, and the tournament is still happening in 4 months' time. I think it's probably would, but I think there'd be a health and safety inquiry. The police would be involved. There'd be this, there'd be that, and that did happen at the time. But it became quite clear and obvious because everybody was there watching the drill, and he's been told time and time again: when you get off the Traveller and you ditch the tent, but none of this means anything to anyone. You turn, you go up, you gather the lines. By which time that's all gone, and you run it over the top of that.
On the next phase.
But for whatever reason, he did this and kept just running straight through, and he kept being told, "Don't do that. Look where the shear leg." Because once you let the shear legs go, there's no way you can stop it falling.
Yeah,
because it's incredibly heavy. And he did it again, but he didn't do it every time. You just got to the point where you think, is he going to do it this time? And again, hindsight's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Personally, as a trainer, I'd have gone, no, you're not doing that number. I can't trust you. Gone. It's, I think, what would happen nowadays. You can't be trusted. Go over there and we'll find another number for you.
Yeah.
Or you're pushing the T-trolley from here on in.
That's happened.
Because you're putting yourself at risk. And straight away, the mental health of the rest of the crew is going to be affected because I've just seen my oppo die in front of me.
Incidentally, and it's just, I suppose, just to close off the story, but how did the team do that?
I believe they came second overall.
Okay.
Yeah, they got on with it. This was a B crew incident insofar as the reserve team, if you like. The A crew were just getting on with it. They saw it happen. They slowed slightly, but then they got up and got on with it.
So do you think when in '99, the decision would have been made way before that, and there would have been a run into the final show or the final competition? Do you think it was just a resource thing, or do you think it was also a health and safety thing, or do you think things were changing in the '90s where people from a construction perspective, which is kind of my reflection on things, things started absolutely changing in the '90s into the noughties and to where we are now. So even if the Navy had unlimited money, do you think Command Field Gun would still be on now?
I think it was a politically correct decision rather than a purely resource management.
Yeah.
Because if it was just resource, I do generally believe that if it had been seen as a good thing, can we keep it? What can we do to keep it? It would have gone tri-service. You'd have moved away from the three commands in the Navy and you'd have said RAF, Army and Navy will have a crew each.
Yeah.
Oh, straight away. You'd have had the resource for that. This, in my view, and it is only my view, in my view, there were elements of it's male only. It's predominantly white faces that you see on the TV. And we had coloured lads run, and they were bloody good field gunners. We were all bloody good field gunners, and none of us really had a clue what colour we were. Knocker, slinger, smuds, we were wheel numbers, flying angels, we were just numbers. But it was all male. It was all junior eights and senior eights, no officers. So there were all these little things that tick, tick, tick. But the most crucial one, in my view, was it harked back to colonial days. And in my head, I go, what does the government not want to be associated with most? And it that Victorian, fantastic, we had an empire. Yeah, but we were treading on people. Yeah. We were shooting people with bullets that were coming at us with kumquats. You know, all that sort of Blackadder stuff. Yeah. It was true. That's what we did in the... And harking back to that's not what we wanted to be seen to be doing. Yeah. And I get that to a point.
Yeah.
But when you balance it against the whole determination, teamwork, grit, you can change the rules. You can create a female crew. You can have anybody you want running it. You can go tri-service. You can move the venue away from London. You could have done all of that, but they chose to go get rid.
So do you think that's what Brickwoods does? Do you think that's filled that void?
No.
What do people call it? Car park trolley dash?
Brickwoods,
I think it's great. I really enjoy Brickwoods.
You've done Brickwoods.
Yeah,
Brickwoods is a great sport.
I loved it, yeah.
But five-a-side's a great sport, but it's not the FA Cup final. It's still playing football, and it's fantastic. I love Brickwoods. I've trained 2 Brickwoods crews. I managed to come 4th. I've never won it, but I managed to train a bunch of complete novice Royal Marines at 42 Commando, and we came 4th. One of the most incredible years of my life, 2015. A bunch of Royal Marines said, we're going to win this.
I ran that year. Yeah, for the Maritime Reserves.
Because the bookies wanted to wear the green lids at the end, remember? Get your berries off. Get your berries off. Do you remember that?
Boilies walking around, strutting around Collingwood. Yeah.
And they came 4th. They were buzzing.
Didn't Heron win that?
I think it was one of the Wafoos.
Well,
it might have been Seahawk. It was either Heron or Seahawk.
Because the Bongos came and won it a few times.
Yeah. Well, we were chuffed to bits because Royal had said we're going to stuff Jack. Is what they'd said. And bless her, Tash Pulley was the warrant officer at Raleigh. I was there as a division officer, and I was going to sort of mentor her as a trainer. And she said, by the way, 4-2 are looking for a trainer. And I went, interesting. Because I'd seen this Wigan stuff, Jack, and me and Royal. I love Royal to bits, but I love a little bit of banter with Royal.
Yeah.
So I took it upon myself to drive unannounced to there to go and talk to their executive officer, the major. Knocked on his door. Excuse me, sir, there's Lieutenant Pack on rally. Oh, what do you want? He's come to put us back in our box. I walked in my, I was in better nick then, so I was, I was doing weights, so I was in good nick.
Yeah.
And I reached out and I shook his hand and gave him a good old squash. And I said, I'm here to bring your dream true, sir. And he went, what do you mean? I said, I can train your guys. I said, you won't win it, but if we can get into the final, that's a step towards winning.
Absolutely,
And he went,
yeah.
take a seat. And we had a chat, and within a week, we had a clear lower deck effectively at 4-2 commander with Bickley. And I said, if you're not interested, fuck off. I fucking duly fucked off. Yeah. Those that stayed, I went, right, this is the gun limp. I'm Kerry Packer. I've done this. I've done that, blah, blah, blah. If you're still interested in doing this, stay. And again, I ended up with about 55, 60 Marines, and these were big lads. They have some wiry, fast. Already I'm going speedy bullet at the end, wheel, the back of the box.
Yeah.
And we went through the gun, the limber, the drags, and I showed them a few videos and said, right, see you next Wednesday. Turned up on the Wednesday following. We had to move shake-ons from the car park. We couldn't have a run home. We'd have to do the run out, then move the stuff and do a run back. And then we managed to get a deal with Rally, which meant we only trained in the evenings. So 4-2 from Bickley, we wouldn't train lunchtimes, but they drive across. All of them would drive across en masse. Great. If any of you lads are watching, I love every single one of you because you're fantastic. And hopefully they're saying the same right now, not that wanker. But they drove across the Rally every night for 7 and 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And we ran on the track adjacent to Rally. We never run against them. We had that unwritten rule that said, you go, we'll talk, we'll run, you talk.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had a wonderful time. Wonderful
Did
time.
you beat Rally? Did Rally get into the final?
No, they didn't. Okay. But the point we said, does it in any way carry on that tradition? It carries on the tradition in the name of field gun, but it doesn't in any way, shape or form achieve the heights of demand on the physical, mental, emotional being. And that bonding that happens in a command crew does not happen to any.
So that, sorry to jump in. So the difference there is that much, and brickwoods are still dangerous. You can still trap your finger in the wheels if your pin comes out on the wheels. So basically, you put these wheels on the gun and the limber, which is the box that carries the shells, and then you put a pin in. And I've heard stories where when you put and because it's tapered, when the gun and limber are moving, the wheels are pushing out and they'll come off if the pins aren't in. So you hear stories where pins come out, one they're on the run home, and some nutters just force their hand on the tapered sort of axle, or even got their finger trapped in the pinhole and lost a finger. So I'm not sure how often that's happened, but
no one's ever done the pin in the finger in the hole. That's a bit of a dockyard myth.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. No. Fingers are missing because of bad drill.
I think it was the Grassy Meadows chap who's missing a digit, and I'm sure that was what
Grassy Meadows got his hand stuck in the breech. He was a scratcher.
Oh right.
There used to be a time where you didn't use a scratcher; you physically pulled it out, and he got caught, so he lost his finger there. And other people with the lifting strops that sit above the limber that go on the traveller and command field gun. As and when the weight comes on, if you put your hand on the back of the box and the weight comes on, it severs your finger.
So do you think the difference is, so why were the teams much more close-knit in command rather than brickwoods? Is it because it was a full-time pursuit?
The intensity of it.
So how many calories were you eating a day? You had support stuff. So if you had an A and B crew, so you've got 18 plus the reserves for both. Yeah. Then you've got the people that cook your food. You've got all the PTIs. You've got your physios. You've got that medical support. How many people are we talking about per squad?
Probably about 120 maximum to start the season. And then you would hack down, because 2 crews of 18, 36 bodies, you've got your number 1 trainer, number 2 trainer, PDI.
For both squads as well?
Well, number 1, number 2, that's A and B crew.
Oh, okay.
You've got your field gun officer and your PTI that covers both. Yeah. You've got chippy, woodwork, rigger, ropes, OA, metalwork. In the workshops, they probably have a couple of people work for them. You'd have a driver, you'd have a bar manager, blah, blah, blah. So you're up. By the time you get to the sort of the meaty end of the season, as you progress towards getting onto the track and towards the court, you're probably around about 60 bodies in each of the commands. Wow. 180, 200 people.
And then, so then looking at the Navy back in those, I suppose even pre-90s, I think we're around 25 to 30,000 now.
Back then, high 20s.
We were around 80.
I think it's probably, high 60s, early 70,000.
So these are kind of the elite athletes within the services, weren't they? Within the Navy, anyway.
Certainly great specimens of humanity. Fantastic specimens of humanity. But not just that. I mean, in all seriousness, generally speaking, when you spoke to people on ships to say, can I have can I have LPG Kerry Packer? Generally speaking, they go, well, he's my only PDI, so I'd rather you didn't. Can you find me a relief? And actually, he's one of my best lead hands. He's probably one of my best POs and chiefs because he's good at what he does. He's a confident character. Well, you grew confident, and that's what command field gun was so good at. You could throw someone into this mince machine and come spitting out because you didn't quite make it, but something would have rubbed off on you still. You'd have still become more confident. Christ, I can do that. I'm going back again next year. If you didn't quite make it one year, you'd make it the next, and you'd find a drive, you'd find a reason, you'd find a target, you'd find an aim, and it would make you a better person. Now, I can't tell you scientifically why that happened, but I know it did.
So I think what's relevant is just hearing your story, hearing you then also talking about the brickworks thing when you walked into the office and you said, "I'm your man for the Royals for their brickwood endeavour." What gave you? You've always come across as a very confident bloke who's self-assured. You understand your value. Is that something you learn, or is that just something innate within you? Is there something you can tell anybody listening that kind of is struggling with that confidence to say, I'm your man, I can do this? What advice could you give them based on your experiences?
On my drive across to Bickley, I was cacking myself. There was the imposter syndrome was there on my right shoulder going, don't do it, Kerry, don't do it. But on my left-hand side, the other guy was telling me, you've run command field gun, 4A crews, a B crew, and you've been PDI. You've run 5 times in Brickwoods and you've trained Cold Rose. So if you can't do it, come on, mate, give it. The biggest worry I had was credibility. And as soon as I said to myself, look at what you have done. Look at what you have done, even just the field gun. And then I've also been a member of the Navy rugby team, and I was a physical trainer, and I've gone through Dartmouth, and I've become a lieutenant, and I'm tick, 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 tick. And in my head, I said to myself, why would the major look at me and go, no? Why would he say that?
Quite right. So,
and in my head, I had to convince myself.
Yeah.
There was that self-doubt, and there's self-doubt in everything I do, because imposter syndrome is something I'm very well aware of and feel it. Every time I go coaching at Havant, I'm filled with imposter syndrome, filled with it until I'm out on the park.
Yeah.
And I get that side of the whitewash, and the rain starts coming down, and we've got the ball in my hand, and I go, no, come on, get your body long and get through the contact. And suddenly you're in the zone, I suppose you call it, and you're back into that. This is where I belong. And until standing in front of them saying, who wants to be part of this, I was cacking myself. But once we got on the track and I'm saying, right, get yourselves into this, I want back of the box here, and moving people around and saying, have a play with it, I'm in my element. So I would say to people, step over the edge. Just step over the edge, because you'll learn to fly. You will learn to fly. You will.
I've definitely learned that, because I know I do stupid, obscure things, but I've got the World Gravy Wrestling coming up on the 25th of August, but I love gravy. I love gravy. But it's and potentially someone has ego, a bit of narcissism, whatever. There's definitely some negative elements to that. But ultimately, it's I love to go and try new things. And what used to cripple me, absolutely cripple me, up until I was probably 35, and it's still there. It's that a fear of failure. Like, I was always scared to fail, and because I was always scared to fail, I never quite pushed myself to that limit where I was exposed to failure. I would stay within my comfort zone just to kind of achieve certain levels I was comfortable achieving. I knew I could do that at maybe 70%, but I would never push myself to that 100% where I was suddenly exposed to failure. People would see me failing and going, look at that bloke. So I was, and on top of that, I was always concerned about what people thought of me, and that always held me back, and that's changed.
That's massive.
Yeah.
That's massive, that last bit.
Did you ever have that?
Ego is the biggest enemy in any organisation I've ever been part of. Whether it's collective ego, individual ego, their ego, my ego. Ego is a horrible, horrible thing if it's not controlled and recognised for what it is. The 4-2 commander, the first thing I said to them was, guys, I want you to reach behind your heads, pull out your ego, roll it up and put it in that bin over there. I had a bucket and put it in that bucket over there. And they looked at me like I had a chicken on my head. And I said, guys, we're not doing anything until you do what I tell you. And they went, I said, no, come on, tear it out properly, for fuck's sake, Royal. Get rid of your ego. And they did it, and they made a bit of a joke about it. And I went, great. And then just a little button that they've gone, there's obviously a reason for that. Let's play along with this. And then once we started doing this, and he's lifting it too hard, so what are you doing? Go and put your ego away again. Because if you lift it too hard and he's not lifting it, he does that and he can't get his way. So, and organisationally, I'm probably waffling a bit now, but organisationally, the same thing happens. And if we allow our ego to be the driver, because I was going to say, can I ask you a question? Why were you scared of failing? It's because of what I might look like.
Correct.
That's ego.
Correct. That's right.
If you can go, it doesn't matter. Because the people who laugh at me are the ones I don't value anyway. You've seen my comment
Yeah.
in the talk group, C's and not C's. The C's, I don't care what you think because see you next Tuesday. You're irrelevant because you don't matter. Graham matters because I value his opinion because you do shit I value and I respect. Those people don't unless they prove to me they can. So you said earlier you're on Instagram or Facebook. No, because it's full of complete fakes. Facebook and Instatype. It's complete fake. The people who are most vociferous on those platforms are the fakes. Look at me, I'm fantastic. I'm a influencer.
I am guilty, Kerry.
Who the fuck are you influencing? Not influencing me, you're zero. You're a self-centered, self-entitled, arrogant fool, probably with false tits and false lips. You've probably got a fake tan. You've probably got fake teeth.
Yeah.
Well, apologies, but I look at that and it's just fake.
Yeah.
If you feel you need to validate, we said earlier, if you feel you need to validate yourself with the picture at the back of your T5, say, look at the sunrise. Who are you trying to convince?
No, it's an interesting subject. I think that's something that's definitely worthy of its own.
I'll wait for your phone to be.
But you're quite right, and I think we're in a new age, right? Where I've got kids that have grown up with the internet their whole lives.
Yeah.
They've grown up with these such social platforms their whole lives, and you're seeing it now with much more with the younger kids coming through. When I speak to my youngest son's friends and stuff when they're around, they are far less socially armored to deal with any sort of interaction, and maybe it's quite intimidating, this big 6'3" bloke. I don't know. There's these social skills are being stifled, and not stifled, they're not developing.
They allow you to keep the world at a distance, don't they?
Yeah.
And still interact in a way that is non-confrontational, non-challenging, no eye-to-eye contact.
Yeah.
People dip their heads. Why do kids wear hoodies? They're not wearing hoodies because they're pushing drugs and they're criminals. They're nasty people. They're wearing hoodies, in my opinion, because they're anxious. We spoke about your dog. Dogs are anxious. Humans are anxious. But we've got ways of dealing with it. We put our hoodies up. We look at the ground. We walk around people. We don't go, morning. You say good morning to people in Southsea. They think you're about to mug them.
That's true. I do try and do that. Yeah.
And every time I say good morning to someone, they say good morning back.
You're
Yeah, we moved to heaven.
I see.
It's a wonderful feeling to look someone in the eye and go, good morning.
So that's one thing. Anyone watching this, say good morning or good afternoon to anyone
just
walking.
say good morning.
Go hoodie. Was that a Cameron thing?
That was a camera thing, yeah. I'm not going.
We're not.
I'm not encouraging unwanted physical attention.
Kerry, you touched upon rugby then in your deliberations. Of course, that's the connection, the main connection we have. We toured Malta together. That was a good tour.
We did. It was on tour stage. Tour.
So we went.
Not us, obviously.
Yeah. We won't talk about that, but that was a great tour, and I got to understand. I saw the underbelly of the Naval Rugby Organisation. I met some really great people. Great coaches, great players. Lots of them have achieved great things. There's current captain.
Got bragging rights right now, haven't we?
Yeah, well, exactly. The main the kingpin there is Jared, right? Who was very young on that tour. Who was absolutely developed. We always knew he had a great future. Incredible.
He would have been a great fielder.
Would he? Where would you see him?
I'd have him on the gun. He'd probably been a first wheels. Or maybe a heavy end.
Yeah, but he's quick as well.
So
there's lots of roles I suppose you could have done actually, because he's stronger than his frame suggests.
Quick.
Yeah, exactly. But I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I suppose you were talking earlier about your progression from school to the Navy and how it's felt like, as you were explaining it, was just the smoothest progression because everything you loved about school was there straight away in the Navy. Everything, so it was that smooth transition. So. Is that still the case? I'm going to come round to the bit I wanted to point out, but just do you think that opportunity is still there for, lads in schools? Like I said, I've got 4 boys, and they all love sport, and they enjoy the academic challenge too. But would you still recommend the forces? Would you still say there is a great career if you love sport in the Navy?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I hate to him as I'll say it, RAF Army as well. I would always...
Even a crab fat, you'd say...
Yeah. In fact, great. I love this story about my old man. Bless him, he's dead now, but he will be laughing when I spin this dip. I'd been in training for 3 weeks, and it was Easter leave. So I'm a matlow for 3 weeks. I've literally had my head shaved, been given a uniform, still smells of mothballs, and I'm on the train back to Lincoln from Raleigh. Back in the day, you travelled in your number 2 uniform, so your flares and your collar, looking like a proper matlow. And you've got your kit bag.
Is that still the uniform, the flares?
There is that uniform, yeah.
I see.
The junior 8s, I believe. But anyway, my dad's picked me up at the station. I'm in uniform. He's just come from RAF Waddington. So he's in uniform and he says, fancy a pint, lad? I'm like, yes, Dad, that'd be great. So we drive to the Duty Watch Bar at RAF Waddington on the crossroads, the Wheat Sheep pub. And it is the Duty Watch Bar. It's full of crap facts. It's a Friday afternoon. They're all in there for a few pints before they have their 6 pints and drive home, back in the day.
Their hotel ratings.
Absolutely, yeah, and the air conditioning and stuff. Bear in mind, I'd been prepped by my warrant officer. My dad was in the RAF, so he used to ring twice a week just to see how Rob getting on, and he got used to his phone calls. So my warrant officer knew my dad was a crab fan, so he'd given me this strapline, and I put it in my back pocket. We go into the pub, and Barry and Denise, the owners, lovely people. Bear in mind, as you go there every Saturday night after rugby, we'd be up there. So I'm a local.
I see.
I know.
Yeah, they know you are. Yeah.
And even the crabs that are in there, they know that's Rob and that's Graham's lad. He's joined the Navy. Now he's in the Navy, and I'm there in my square rig. So my dad puts his hands on the bar, and he stares right in Denise's eyes and smirks, and she's going, don't cry. Really embarrassing. And I went, what? Now that you're in the Navy, son, you're a junior 8, I'm a senior 8, get the beers in. And everyone behind me went, like a mild applause. Yeah. So I've spun round, I've let back on the
service.
bar. And I'm looking at them, and I said, yes, but Dad, I'm now in the senior service, and you're in the junior service. You get the fucking beers in. And behind me, Barry, who was cleaning out the glasses, went, yes. Yes.
Did he get the beers?
He got the beers in. And they went, he's got it, bro. But yeah, absolutely. As a way of life, it's still a fantastic, fantastic career to have. And there's so many opportunities. You could become a lawyer. If you join the Navy, they will train you to be a lawyer, a logistician.
Sorry, just jump in. But when I first looked into the Navy back in the 2010s, I was getting a bit fatigued with my career at the time. And I started looking really into that. And yeah, the one that really stuck out for me was Submariner Logistics officer, because you're right, that pathway to go into
the skill
is there. You do 2 years at sea, and the rest of it could be becoming one of the highest qualified barristers.
Our mate Jeff, he works for the RFU. He's the senior judge advocate for the RFU, I believe, still. So but the pathways that open up: nuclear engineering, helicopter engineering, aviation engineering, jet engineering, marine engineering, electricals. It's communication devices. It's just phenomenal. Where are you going to get that in Civvy Street with the added advantage, of travelling the world and playing rugby and football?
Even lads I know now that are kind of they know they're going to be leaving the Navy in the next couple of years. They're now feathering their nest, so they're getting great qualifications. So when they come into Civvy Street, they're on a running treadmill straight away. They're not starting at scratch. They're kind of ready to continue.
And they've got management skills that they don't even know they've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've been doing it. Even if you're just a part, let's say that's disparaging. If you're a partnership lead none, i.e. you're in charge of the forecastle, you're not in charge of it because the PO's in charge.
Yeah.
And the deck officer, the lieutenant's in charge of the PO. But as a lead none, you're looking after 4 lads and lasses who are coming alongside and throwing heaving lines and doing stuff and making sure they're safe. And are they in the right rig? Are they on time? Have they been drinking? Do they? You're managing people. And without even knowing it, you're developing management skills. And of course, you then get promoted to PO and you run a division then from PO to chief. And before you know it, you're flying and you're in your mid-20s, early 30s, and you're a middle manager. You've got these skills. You whack it on a CV, go out into Civvy Street. People want that kind of stuff. The discipline and all that associated.
If I was looking for people and I saw that on the CV, I'd definitely be enamoured to that. Because that is exactly what you'd want in your business.
Get your kids in the military. They would benefit. They might only do 5 years. I'm looking at the wrong camera.
Yeah.
They might do 5 years, they might do 10 years, but they'll have a great time. And you'll see a massive change in them for the positive.
So thinking about that, though, the forces tend to attract a certain mindset, a certain character. So there will be people that are watching this that may have kids that don't get out of bed, they're a bit lazy. Do you think those kids could be... could they be motivated to consider that as an option? Or do you think, the mindset's wrong, they will not survive? Is this something...
I was really privileged to have a 4 year stint at HMS Raleigh as a new entry division officer.
Oh, wow, so I've seen
that transition from those kids that arrive, and I'll use the word kids. We'd have 30-year-olds and transfers in the army, but generally the kids would arrive, long hair, short hair, studs, tattoos, whatever, from whatever background. And some would look like scared, rabbits in the headlights. Some would be giving it the big I am, trying to cover their fear. And all. You'd see all these behaviours. But all of them had a common feeling of, can I do this? They've at least put their name on a bit of paper, got on the train and turned up.
Yeah.
That's enough. They were people who didn't used to get out of bed. There were people who didn't like to get their hair cut. People who didn't know how to polish shoes. And I remember on one occasion, I'd been there maybe 2 or 3 years, one of my petty officers, we're all sat having breakfast the day before the pass out or the day of the pass out, waiting for the parents to go in and have their little presentation of the video of rally and what they've done. And you're going to meet your kids in a minute because they're going to come on and get their stripes. And then we'll go down to divisions. And as the parents are walking in, Gaz looks across out the window and goes, I know someone you know, just as a little bit of a...
Yeah.
And I went, actually, Gaz, you know someone they don't know. And he went, oh, boss, I like that. Of course. I said, they've had 10 weeks with us. They're not going to recognise these individuals. And true enough, pretty much every single parent, and it was a lovely, lovely moment, just a brief shake of the hand and a thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Awesome. You get a lot of that. So
Yeah.
it's funny how... it's not funny. The way your career's developed in the Navy is the same success and the same, I'd say, gift that you get from your rugby coaching, right?
Well, the rally bit, definitely.
Yeah, from that coaching perspective. Don't get me wrong. I know you do lots of technical other jobs.
Actually, mentoring is something I'm hugely, hugely keen.
So how long have you been coaching at Havant?
Blimey. When did I first go up there?
Were you coaching the season we lost Mick Chalk?
Yes. Oh, I'd gone home. We'd finished the game. Gone back. As you remember, Mick was digging the pitch at the start of the game because it was heaving and such a wet day. I took myself home to get the shower because I was only living in Farlington. Drove home to get a shower, came back to find the ambulance.
Sorry, 2 seconds. So I mentioned Mick Chalk, but we're both members of Havant Rugby Club. Brilliant club, best club in the South Coast, playing National League Rugby. In fact, let's use this opportunity. We've got 4 teams now. We're playing at level 4, level 6, level 8. Brilliant facilities.
The ladies teams now as well. Some of them,
they're in the third level, but they're at the top of the third level.
Yeah.
Within 10 years, women's rugby has gone very close to pro level. So that's madness. Yeah. And in the juniors section as well, girls rugby's taken off massively. So I'd say in the last 10 years, the playing numbers within the club as a whole club entirely has nearly doubled.
It's probably more.
Yeah, and we got waiting lists there. Anyway, sorry to talk about Mick Chalk was a great club stalwart. He couldn't do enough for the club. Part and parcel of everything about it, and only until this month, we're August now. His grandson Paddy has been running a club, so the legacy continues. Michelle's still there.
Yeah.
Just an incredible guy who could never do enough and a brilliant supporter. So when he died, God bless him, in fact, we'd just come off the end of some really bad results as a club. We were in a rebuilding. We go too far into that because, I was at fault for some of that, but we'd been on a building phase. We'd dropped a few leagues. And the coaches, Will and his team, were doing their best, which included you as well, to build the club back up, to stop the free fall. You stopped the rot, and you were starting to recover. And you had some really loyal players that stuck with the club, regardless of the tough times that were ahead. Because we'd been filtered down to a squad that wasn't capable of the level we were at. Was probably suited for 2 levels down. No offense to the players, it was just we'd lost so many players that had been playing level 5 the season before, suddenly gone. That. We might talk about loyalty later, but
look at the resilience we're talking about there.
Yeah, exactly.
From the coaches,
a lot of that, exactly. It's having the strength of leadership that knew times were hard, and they dug in and they were like, "We're staying stick with this." Exactly, and talking about Mick suddenly, that was after. But that was after our first victory in a long time.
And he was the one that allowed us to get the game on by walking the pitch.
Yeah.
If you remember, because before we had the now 5G, he was physically pitchforking for about 3 hours before the game to allow the referee to do the inspection to go, there's a bit of water, but it should be okay. Because before Mick started, there were pools of water. Shocking, wasn't it? But Mick got that game on.
He did.
And then he counted the shirts in, as Will described it to me. 1 minute he's counting the shirts, the next minute he's gone. He's on his back. And I probably arrived back at the club literally within minutes of the ambulance arriving.
I thought his last words were something like, "What a fucking game, lads." Anyway, God rest his soul, Mick.
He's still with us.
He is. I feel him at the club, and I love going in the first team change room and seeing his picture there. Yeah. And I have to say a few words to him. There's magic in that. I love going in that change room. So you were there. You were part of Will's team as he was doing his best, as you were doing your best as a club as well to rebuild, so we can push off. What we're going through now and what we're witnessing are the fruits of that 15 years of intense hard labour and commitment from players and everything. It's obviously a combined effort. But Kerry, you looked after the Dolphins, which is having second team. And you'd won a couple of promotions, but was it last season? You went through the whole season not losing a single game, every game with a bonus point. Yeah, that's
so. I was the assistant.
Well,
coach.
no, but you've always been part of that team, right? So we'll come to the reason why you weren't a bit in a minute, but you've been around successful teams from field gun to rugby to both participating but then coaching. What are the key qualities you see, and what are the things that you are imparting on the team for them to be successful? Of course, success only comes through hard work, dedication, perseverance, all these discipline. That's how success comes. But how do you build that into a team? Have you got advice for other coaches that are potentially struggling? What is it you're building to get to there?
It's attention to detail. It's the old KISS thing. Keep it simple, stupid. We both played rugby most of our lives, and we know that no matter what game you play in pretty much whatever weather or against whatever opposition, there are fundamentals that can never change. You've got to be able to catch, pass, kick, run, tackle. There are fundamental basics that you've got to get right. And if you can do the basics very, very well, time and time and time and time and time, you get the hint again, and make sure that the opposition make more mistakes than you do, you will win a game. That's the fundamental basics of it all. Will Freebury, bless him, love him to bits.
No, he coached me. He's a great.
He told me years and years and years ago. He says, never forget the 4 basic principles: go forward, support, continuity, and pressure. If you're fulfilling all 4 of them consistently in attack or defence, you'll win a game. Because if you fall away on one of them, which is what you're trying to do to the opposition, is to pressure them into not going forward, not maintaining continuity, not being able to put you under pressure, etc., you will dominate them. You will win the game. And my philosophy has always been, keep repeating the same things. Get long when you go on the floor. Get long. Get through the breakdown. Present the ball. Let us have a quick run. Catch the ball. Put your thumbs together. Give the target. All these simple things that you probably use phraseology when you're teaching the under 11s. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be telling it to the senior players who are playing at level 4, level 5, level 3. Even the Premiership players are told, get your hands right. Where's your target? Get your body up. You're getting lazy. Don't give in to fatigue. It's just a thing. It's just a word. It only becomes real if you allow it in. Don't let it in, because you can let it in when it's time to breathe. When the whistle goes, allow the fatigue in, take a breath.
Right.
All of this sort of stuff. And that's, to be honest with you, it's similar on day-to-day stuff, because we'll talk about the black dog. I still have days when the black dog comes in, but similarly to a real dog, the black dog will respond to your behaviours. If I turn my back on the black dog, I know he's there and I know I'm having a bad day, I'll turn my back on it and not let him jump up at me. And I'll go and have a cup of tea. And I won't maybe get on the watt bike, because do you know what? I know I'll underperform and that will reinforce the black dog. So I'll give him a break today. It's just things. Any little win you can get when you know you're having a bad day, because you get to smell it, you taste it. You know that day will come. Yeah. When you wake up in the morning, you know today's the day when I've got to go 1, 2, 3 foot on the floor. I've got to count it, because if I don't count it, I'm not getting out of bed. 1, 2, 3 foot on the floor. Good lad. Make your bed. Take your pills. Do that.
Constant
self-dialogue. Self-dialogue.
So I was talking to my wife recently.
Probably jumped ahead of it.
No. But I think if it naturally moves on to that, it's fine. So the black dog thing is, personally, I know we're on a group where I think it was set up by, was it Grant?
I think it was Grant
together,
and a couple of the others. Yeah.
Brilliant thing where it's like an SOS call, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Even there are times when we talk about the black dog, but where you wake up and you cannot, for no rhyme or reason, you just feel it's so sad.
There's a weight.
There's something there. Yeah. And there's normally other anxieties that have led to this point. You may have had poor sleep. There could be something happening at home. You're underperforming at work. But then when a number of them start adding up, it feels like this avalanche of sadness. Suddenly, just it's too heavy. It goes. So we'll adjust this first. Do you get that at the moment? And is your coping strategy do that right? Small wins. I know it's there. I can't ignore it, but I'm going to just try and focus on these positive bits. and then he might just chill out.
Looking back on my life, I have always had massive highs and massive lows.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I remember being classed as hyperactive.
It's crazy.
That was the thing.
That's a
Back in the day,
superpower.
you were just
That's
hyperactive.
ADHD.
Possibly.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
We ought to
been-
put words to it, probably.
In the last couple of years of my time in the Navy, leading up to my medical discharge, I was under the mental health, system in the dockyard, and it served a purpose. Did it turn my life around and change me? Not really. And pretty much everything we did, I kind of was aware of, because I do Google and I look online and try and find solutions. And I've got sport and the phraseology and the skills, the breathing, all that sort of stuff was all part of the visualization techniques, with the same as I did at rugby and at field gun, visualizing the run out, visualizing the run back and stuff. So the skills we were talking about were things that I suddenly realised, well, I know that. I can do that, and I can do that. And that got me through the 97 season. That got me through the time I broke my foot. And suddenly I could contextualise back to, and everything goes back to sport for this call sign.
Yeah.
Everything goes back to sport. If I'm short of cash, if I'm worried about the mortgage being paid, I contextualise it in a sporting sense, insofar as the end of the month to me is 10 minutes to go before full time, and we're just camped on the line with 2 points up. All we've got to do is survive.
Yeah. Keep
Hit everything as hard as you fucking can. Smash it. Backwards, towards the 22.
2 minutes of
When you've got them to the 22,
Yeah.
get them to the 10. When you've got them to the 10, get them to the halfway line full time. It's the first of the month, you've been paid, pressure's gone, black dog's gone. And it sounds completely ridiculous in some manners, but people who get it,
Yeah.
they'll go, yeah. And it might not be the rugby contextualisation. It might be when you're building a garage, the hardest thing is digging the foundation.
Yeah.
So maybe it's in your head, you just get the foundations dug and get the concrete laid. That might be the contextualisation. That might be the metaphor, whatever you want to call it. So there's always been an ability in me to recognise, not always, I now know I've always had this up and down, up and down, up and down. Back in the day, it was hyperactivity. Why does he cry all the time? But he wasn't crying Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, he's angry and he's uptight. Yeah. Is it ADHD? Is it something else that's been given up on the name? I don't know. But the fact is, I've always been that way. Nowadays, I'm older, wiser, been through a lot more. I've got better coping strategies, and they work for me.
So it's crazy. I think I've known you 15 years, a long time.
Possibly even longer.
Yeah. And you still, I look at you and I see you exactly the same as I remember you. Obviously, we've grown older together, but time goes by very quickly. Ultimately, thinking back at the last 5 years, we're lucky you're here, right? Part of getting you here was I said when I introduced you, you've diced with death, you've diced with duty, and now deliverance, where you are post forces. You've got all those skills. You've forged all these skills over time, and you've got lots of lessons you've learned that you can impart on. Like, I listen to you all the time. I still want to go into coaching at some point. Not yet. I need to focus on something and move on. Anyway, different story. You diced with death. So is it 2 years? Nearly 2 years ago?
Just over a year ago.
Just over a year ago.
I was in hospital.
And I've just learned that you were 4 days in intensive care.
On
life support, yeah. Which I didn't know about. I don't think you.
Well, I didn't until a week ago when Kaz eventually opened up about it.
Just give us that context, though, because you, like I said, you've always been a specimen. You've always been a really fit guy, and of course through habit and just the way you've always been in sports. Every time I see you, you're always doing. Even you, I think you had a weights thing set up in your garden. You're always gymming, even during COVID, all that sort of stuff. So, for someone who is remarkably fit, cardiovascular, strong, what happened? How were you suddenly nearly dead?
I contracted leptospirosis, which is otherwise known as
Weil's disease.
It's a disease apparently which is born in rat's urine. And we moved to Havant from the Maori Quarter in the February-March of 2024. I did quite a lot of work in the garden almost immediately, getting rid of detritus from around the garden. And it's highly likely that I've done this or whatever, and it transfers itself from your body into the blood system.
So you ingest
and
it?
It starts to do somehow. Bear in mind, I was also walking around Havant. It's a very wet area and it's winter times, and I always go everywhere in sandals or trainers with no socks on. So I could have been walking through boggy water, and it could have got in through a bit of athlete's foot. I'm forever catching my shins on my pedals on my bike. It could have got through an open wound there.
Right.
It could have been a wipe of them. It could have been anything. But the point being, I always work out on the watt bike, and I always get 15 kilometres at 80 RPM in 30 minutes, or 15.14, 15.25, Suddenly it's 14.8, and my legs feel heavy. And then it was 14.6 and 14.4, and then I try a bit harder and get 14.8, and I couldn't get 15. I'm thinking, my bike needs a service. It's not me. I'm me.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
it's changed still.
We had a barbecue with some friends in the June. So this is in May, late April, early May. I've noticed it only now looking back. I didn't notice it at the time. It just became a, come on, I will get the bike service next month. We can't afford it. Just bought a house. 1 o'clock forward into June, we have a barbecue. I wake up the next day hungover, but I'm really hungover. I've never had a hangover like this before. And in my head, looking back, this is the point at which the disease was trying to get me, and it couldn't because I'm Kerry Packer. I had a hangover, and it tipped over the edge, and it got past that ability to, really infiltrate my immune system. So it gets in on the Sunday. I don't feel much better on the Monday. Tuesday, I got some acupuncture, and as I got off the acupuncture table, this lass came around the house, and she was brilliant. I've had it before, and I've had a bit of the, you've had acupuncture. Yeah. You sometimes get a little bit of nausea, but as I got off it, I literally nearly collapsed. I went to a knee thinking, Jesus, all the blood went out my face. And she straight away said, that's the worst reaction I've ever seen. You need to get it looked at. So on the Wednesday morning, I said to the wife, if I'm no better tomorrow morning, and this time I'm now starting to cough up a bit of blood, and I thought, I've bit my tongue. I'm in denial. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm Kerry Packer. So on the Wednesday morning, I wake up, and Kaz said, bless her, she's getting ready for work. How are you feeling? I said, give it till midday, and if I'm no better, we'll ring the doctor. As I said that, I coughed up blood. This is on the 14th, 12th of June, 14th of June. Coughed up blood. She went, no, I'm ringing the ambulance. She rang 999. Within 20 minutes, they were there. Within half an hour, we're heading blues and twos to A&E, and I'm in the back of the ambulance thinking, what are you doing? It's a bit of sciatica. There's nothing really wrong with me. They laid me in A&E. I'm really, really hot, so I asked them to move me to the door. If you remember, well, our summers are quite warm at the minute. So I'm laid in the corridor now by the door, so I'm cooling off a bit. Kaz arrives back again, having been home to sort the dogs out. I have a sip of Lucozade that she's very kindly bought me, and suddenly my body starts to shake. And immediately, military training, this is shock. I've got no idea why I'm going into shock, but I recognise shock. There's no other reason I should be shivering. And I'm proper leaving the trolley. I'm still compos mentis and I'm shouting out, get a fucking doctor. This is not normal. I don't know why, but I'm going into shock. I said that maybe 2 or 3 times and my voice is getting louder and louder. I'm effing and jeffing. Get a fucking doctor. I'm out. I'm gone. I come to, so this is the Wednesday, I come to the following Tuesday with my wife saying to the nurse, do you think he knows where he is? I'm looking up and I'm seeing big metal things. I'm hearing all these beeps and whirs and alarms and thinking,
she's been asleep for 6 days.
Tunes. Yeah, I went out Thursday night. They said to her, you better come in because we don't think he's going to make it. So Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Monday night, I was on life support. It was only as they got into the Sunday, my blood pressure started to come up. And this is the bit Kaz has only just told me because she finds it very, very emotional to talk about it.
Yeah, but of course.
I don't in any way. I was asleep. So I've got no emotional tie to it in some ways.
But you were ultimately in that period.
In that period.
You would not have known. You could have slipped away.
No, the nurses and the doctors were Rob De Silva, who was updating you every day on the WhatsApp. And Rob, big shout to you, mate, because I've read it since and I'm in tears reading it. It's fantastic.
I love winding Rob up.
But when he got in there so Kaz got the phone call on the Thursday night into the Friday, saying we don't think he's going to make it. You need to come in. So my sister and my brother came down from Yorkshire, thinking you've got to come and say goodbye to your brother because he ain't making this. When Rob came in on the Friday morning, the nurse Sarah, superb, wonderful creature, fantastic individual. She worked her nuts off. Married to a Matlow, realised I was a veteran, stagged on, never went home. Grabbed a quick shower, stayed there for another 12 hours. She did that twice.
Angel.
I can't remember her surname. But
did she come to the club?
She was at the dinner.
Yeah,
she came to the club, the blonde lass. She was
awesome.
Brilliant. But long story short, she said to Rob De Silva, people that sick have never left this place alive. He will probably die. Get yourself ready for it. And it was like, and Rob fills up even now when you talk about it. Rob fills up, and I look at him going, what's up you'd have to have?
Rob's just
but then I woke up. Then I woke up. My body recovered. It fought it. It kicked it out. Told Odin, you've come too early. I'm not ready for Valhalla. Give me a shout in 25, 30 years. And here I am today, a year on. Just over a year on.
It was a huge shock for all of us. Like I said, you were always, you're one of these very stoic, resilient men who, if you are the definition of man, right? You're physical. You've got big presence socially, big presence physically. You've been involved in some of the toughest sports when you look at command field gun, rugby, and you're still young, you know. So I remember hearing that, going, what's going on? So it was Weil's disease.
Disease, yeah.
Weil's disease, yeah.
Sclerosis, yeah. Yeah, apparently it's quite rare for people to contract it, and it's even rarer for it to hit the body that hard. So I was just lucky.
So what have you learned though, Rob? So you've
I wash my hands a lot more.
I don't play with water. Do you wear socks? No, you don't. No. But you've swerved death.
Yes.
In fact, whether it's a medical miracle or another miracle or whatever it's been, obviously you've had some great positive people that have got you to this point. Have any of your views or the way you approach things changed because of that experience, or do you still take things head on exactly the same? Has Kerry Packer changed since that experience?
Kerry Packer's definitely changed. Kerry Packer realises he's immortal now. Kerry Packer has always, I say it with a pinch of salt, but I've always considered myself immortal. There's nothing I can't do. I climb the stairs now, I'm out of breath. I can sit on a watt bike and work relatively hard for 45 minutes and not be out of breath that badly.
Can you hit the 15s again?
I've yet to try. I'm now doing 40-minute sessions. I'm doing 20 kilometres.
You are now building your engines.
I am mentally avoiding the 80 RPM, 30 minutes, 15. Yeah. Now I think about it, I'm avoiding that.
Okay.
I'm getting on the bike at level 3, not 4, and I'm going quicker. And I'm doing 28 kilometres an hour, not 30. Listening to my music, it's different. I've changed so much on the bike, just the bike, that I can now do 40 minutes or 20 kilometres and blah. Because we're organising the M650 Challenge again in November. Right. Yeah. So I need to get the miles in my legs. And it doesn't really matter how quick or not quick I go. I've just got to get miles in my legs. Should I get back on that bike, I could probably just about do the 15 again now, probably. But I don't want to push it until I know that I'm ready to do it. And there's no rush, Kerry. There's no rush.
You're quite right. But the fact is, since this experience, you are now building back up to where you were. Your muscle memory's kicked in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you're now driving to, you're very close to where you were before you were poor.
I'm nowhere near that level of fitness.
Oh, right.
And I very much doubt I ever will, because I'm convinced that physiologically my body is completely different now than it was. Right. Whether that's just the direct result of it, or we were talking about the COVID jab and stuff like that. Is this a manifestation of furtherance of that, or is this just on the back of you got whacked with leptospirosis? Mitochondrially, my body must have been completely drained of all its energy systems. So my liver was dead. My liver had to regrow. My kidneys shut down. My heart stopped. Everything was full of blood. My lungs were full of blood. I was literally kept alive by the machines and the dedication of the CCU people in QA. They were just phenomenal. Rob De Silva likens it to the flight deck of the Starship Enterprise. He said people were pressing buttons and doing this, and I cannot give you any more, Captain, and the dilithium crystals. And he said it was just incredible. Just 2 milligrams less, 1 milligram. His blood pressure's gone down. Pump this up, and then suddenly my blood pressure started coming back, and they saved my life. Then my body, with its natural resilience, was able to go, right, thank you. I've got it from here on in, which is where I'm at now. But I think that the mitochondria DNA, well, the mitochondria, which is where your battery cells are, they got hammered so much. I think I'm still trying to recreate them. And of course, we're a bit older, not as young, so maybe that rehabilitation process takes longer. But I'm alive, and I'm sitting on a bike, and I'm doing stuff, and I'm walking dogs, and I'm coaching rugby. I'm actually physically coaching rugby now, rather than just carrying the water bottles. Good. I'm getting back into that now.
I've spent the last year on the tours, and I really want to get back into it. Isn't there going to be a full team now?
Hopefully, but again, I think you're more thirds.
We'll see. There's a bit of commitment there, isn't there?
Well, not every week, Graham.
Okay.
Not every week.
Okay.
US Pompey. I want you for the US Pompey games.
Okay.
Because we've got to win them games. We've got to beat Winchester. The games we threw away with 2 or 3 points last year, we've got to win this year. Got to win the league, so we can target them.
Well, I need to get.
We can talk offline.
We'll talk offline. I'll get fit for that. Right. So knowing now that we talked about ego right at the start, and both of us have egos, we're not afraid to say that. I think that's part of our lifeblood and what makes us who we are, and how we approach things.
Gives us the ability to do what we do.
Yeah, because we're happy to kind of go, I can do this, I'm going to chuck it in. Yeah. It's kind of now my approach to everything is, why
would I not give it a go?
I need failure. Yeah. Failure is part of the process. Doesn't matter. You fall over, you start again, and you learn from that. But this event that happened, and knowing that bit that you just said, that my body's never going to recover the way it was. It's a different body now. This is like KP Mark II. Does that affect you mentally, or are you more? I'm so happy I'm here because I was so close to not being here. I'm here now, so every day's a blessing. And have you spiritually changed? Has anything changed spiritually in you since that event?
To answer the last bit first, I still salute magpies. Every time I see a magpie, I'll salute it. That's the only spiritual bone in my body. I don't have any faith in my life. I have no requirement for it. I respect other people's right to have it, but I don't respect religion. I think it's farcical, personally, and that's my belief system. The fact that I've been through what I've been through almost gives me a fantastic get out of jail free to be old and be crippled and to have bad knees and have bad hips and not push myself to the levels I still wanted to push myself at 56, thinking, come on, you did this when you were 24. Can't you prove to somebody how good you are at 56? There's absolutely no requirement for me to do it. And having had that brush with death, which it was, I'm now more at ease. I'm not at ease. I'm more at ease about the fact that I can't physically run. I can't put my underpants on without a round of applause from Kaz if I get both feet in, without having to sit down or kneel or roll them across the floor, you know.
You don't wear pants, Will. Don't even lie. You'll commando all the time.
Oh, negative. You saw me that day in the club. You know that's not true. But no, but the point is, it's really helped me in a lot of ways. It sounds counterintuitive, but the fact that I nearly died has helped me deal with being physically incapable to do anything. Like, I can't jump over a wall. You know, running across a dual carriageway to go to Twickenham, you'd spring over I have to roll over it. I can't spring. I've got no spring left in my legs. Calves have been torn to bits. Knees are knackered. And prior to the leptospirosis incident, it was, part of the main reason I was so angry and so depressed, I guess, was I was grieving. I was grieving the fact that I've lost that physical ability. That guy you remember, the guy I remember, I'm looking at me going, well, you don't look that much different. But I asked me to run after the dog to pick his lead up. I look like that old fella that you used to remember from your rugby club back in the day, with the stiff-legged walk and he's gone, and I fall over. I fell over at training because I stopped the ball hitting the physio, but because I stopped the ball, I lost my balance, and I didn't have the ability to recover, so I fell backwards, and I'm okay with that because I'm 57. I nearly died, you know.
So is humour something that's helped you cope, and your relationship with Kaz as well? Of course, that's been a huge part of your recovery. And anyone watching or anyone watches this, of course, there's great strength in having a partner that loves you sincerely, and every ounce of your body, and you love them the same. Once you've got that, you can take on anything, anybody, anytime.
You can pull the curtains and tell her everything.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to go anywhere else.
So
She's my counsellor.
I was going to say, from a psychological perspective, I get the same with my wife. She sees everything, all the dark times, everything, and she'll always talk it through with me. And I'm not counselling whoever uses it. I get it works for people, but for me, it's not something I personally prescribe to. I shared something recently which was about what men need is to be in a company of other blokes, kind of playing sport, having a drink, but just taking the mick out of each other, sharing bits, and that's where I definitely find my comfort. Absolutely. My issue is 3 days later when I'm on the hangovers. What do people refer to as Tuesday or something? Tuesdays after a big weekend. That's the bit where I'm at my lowest ebb and stuff. Do you still suffer these things?
No, the days of the week, the whole Tuesday, Wednesday dip in the week and all, I've never had that. I have good days and bad days. Most of my days are good. When I have a bad day, it's a fucking awful day. It's horrible. It's that black dog, and I have to just turn my back and pet it and feed it, and it's okay. But
so you do still, you still get these episodes where do you ever go to the depths of darkness where you're considering things?
No, but I think about it. There's not a day goes by where I don't think about how easy it will be when you're dead. Not I want to kill myself. It's a completely different thing. How easy will things be when it's finally over? That's the thought. It's like, I want to live for as long as I possibly can. But when I'm on a bad day, in my head, I'm thinking, one day you'll be dead and you won't feel like this. It'll be okay. But that's not yet. There's always that caveat. Not yet. Not yet. You're okay. And that's when the dog goes, is it? No, just sit there.
Yeah.
I'll be all right tomorrow. And then you can go back to your kennel,
And so your strategy when you are dealing with that depth of depression or sadness, people call it different things, but when you have that voice saying these things, your coping strategy is to just, like you said, right, next step forward, right, well done. And it's that positive self-talk, positive visualization.
Not yet. I'll just say not yet. It's not the right time. You've had your brush with death, and that's a massive advantage. My body told me, no, not yet. I didn't consciously survive. You can talk about, when you're resilient and you this and you did feel good. None of that mattered. I was kept alive by those people at CC. And I talked about Sarah stagging on it. And the guy who, Ram, his name is, he came up with I think it might be leptospirosis. He's the one who identified it. He's the one that got the test away. If he hadn't done it that day, I'd have been dead, because by the time it came back, they got it in time. And all these things lined up. So the universe said, not yet. Not yet,
But
Kerry.
from what you're saying, also, it's remarkable individuals that went above and beyond as
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
So, and I think there's not enough of this championed or talked about, and even to the levels of sporting achievement. Like we talked about Havant, there were remarkable individuals that stopped the club sinking, that regathered and built to get it where it is now, and they know who they are. These are the bits that seem to be missing. And when you see people have fallen at that final hurdle, whether it's themselves or something that's happened to them that's pushed them that way, that's the bit that's missing. It seems to be missing. So it's that collective spirit and energy of people actually loving and doing all they can to help each other. That's the bit that seems missing. So I suppose if I'm just talking openly because this is just coming to mind. If you're around someone that you're sensing is kind of off key, you need to talk to them, right? You need to.
Absolutely. And this might sound a bit harsh, but I absolutely think that whoever you are, if you decide to take that ultimate step and kill yourself, you selfish bastard. Everybody is investing time and effort in you and keeping you alive. They're talking to you, they're ringing you, they're texting you, they're WhatsApping you, they're doing whatever they're doing to. You fancy a beer? Do you fancy walking the dog? Should we go to the cinema this week? They're all, your wife, your loved ones, your kids, whoever they are, they're doing everything they can with what they've got to keep you safe. And you then decide, fuck everyone, I'm topping it. What a waste of all that effort. People are trying to help you. Let them.
I think it is black and white what you're saying. I do think it's difficult to describe the depths people go to at that.
I got there in 2017 when I thought I was leaving the Navy. I
forgot about that. So talk about that. So you like you'd always been in the environment that you knew what you're doing every day without fail. Everything was there set for you.
Yeah.
And then suddenly
2017.
Boom, that routine's going to change now.
You're turning 50, your time in the Navy's done.
Yeah.
Which I knew was coming because that's the contract, and it was not a surprise, and I was prepared for it, so I thought. And as the days got closer, I'd adopted the 2 dogs from Afghanistan. I was divorced. I was living in Wales. Didn't own a house. I was living in service accommodation.
Wait. What, in Wales when we did that charity race at that time?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I was thinking about hanging myself in garages and how would I rig the rope and stuff. Thinking about it.
Yeah.
But my point being, I would look back at these dogs and I'd sit in the darkness and the moonlight would be coming through the window and I'd look at these 2 dogs sat there saying, we're not going out again, Dad. We're not going out again. And I'd think to myself, if I go out the garage and hang myself, what guarantee have I got that these guys are going to be looked after? Somebody might come in and go, got 2 dogs, I'll shoot them. And they, in that instant, saved my life. Spiderweb and Sarah Webb, and again, you may or may not be watching, they helped save my life. The Spider, who was known to me, and we knew of each other, we weren't close oppos at the time. He lived in Pontypool. He knew I was in Llanfranec, just up by Abergavenny. He rang me, so why don't you come down for supper? Bring the dogs. They didn't want the dogs in the house. It was a lovely house, but they said bring the dogs. There's dog hair everywhere. And he grabbed he found a fucking hedgehog and he started killing hedgehog, and it was a carnage, but they saved my life by saying, come and have a cup of tea.
So again,
people investing time.
People investing time and committing it. Yeah.
Rude would it be to say, thanks very much, but I'm going to kill myself. And I know it sounds very simple and it does sound a bit harsh, but look at yourself. If you're coming up against that black dog and the black dog's going, come on, here's the noose. Think about all of that investment that you've just had. Even if it's just that day or whatever, don't be so selfish. Don't be daft. There are so many people on this planet that need something that you don't even know about yet. In 3 weeks' time, you're the guy that's going to save the kid from falling off the station at Havant, or you're the guy that's going to slam the anchors on and stop the car behind that was going to overtake you, that was going to hit the grandma. You don't know what the universe has got in store for you. So don't take it out of the universe's hands. Let the universe decide. I suppose that's a spiritual thing in some ways.
It is.
Let the universe decide.
Yeah, so if you know, I've got faith, and faith absolutely. In those tough times, I pray very hard. We're not going to go into that, but that's always been something for me. And of course, my very understanding, patient wife, who's always been there for me, and without Gemma, and the kids, of course, and all that sort of stuff, then life will be very different for me, and I have no idea where I'd be. And it's great to see that you've got Kaz. You didn't always have Kaz, but it's wonderful how you found each other. And another point of you being here is her, and we've addressed that. So, Kerry, look, I think it's been a really interesting point. I've learned about command a lot more than I did before today, but it's been interesting to understand kind of your journey a lot more. So, whilst the fact that we've known each other for so long, I've learned a lot about you today. Genuinely, it's It's really interesting stuff. You know, the chapters continue on. You're the head coach for the threes now. So
I'm
you're
helping
heavily
the threes now. I'm
involved.
sort of assistant coach again.
Okay.
I wanted to step down from the twos purely and simply because the twos have got promoted and they're going to travel further, which is more time away. So I want to keep it local. Keep it local. And the threes genuinely are good enough to win that league. If I can help them win that league by helping Pete and Jack.
Are you pushing for level 7?
We want to go up, yeah. We want to win the league and go up.
Wow.
Why not?
Incredible. Yeah, of course. You're not there to just take part, right?
Third or fourth last year.
Yeah.
In a team of first teams. Come on. For the sake of a point when we were at Burnaby Road.
You've still got this drive.
Massive. And I know we're good enough.
Kerry, what's I know you're not on any social media platforms. Is there any way people can get in touch with you? Have you got anything coming up on the horizon that you'd like to get out there? Because I know
the M650 challenge.
So what is that?
The M650 challenge is a challenge that I undertook following the sad death of my very good friend Sid. You remember Sid Street from Pompey. Alison, I love you lots. Hopefully I have the permission to talk about Sid. Lovely bloke, had a long battle against cancer. It came, it went, it came, it went. Eventually it took him. And in his lifetime, he raised something like £200,000, £250,000 for various charities. And one of his key charities was a thing called Charlie's Hut, which was set up by Steve and his wife following the very sad death of their young lad, Charlie, who I think was about 4 or 5 years old from childhood leukemia. And Charlie's Hut is a fantastic setup, which is a holiday home, effectively, down on the Dorset coast, where you can go for respite. If you're a family with a kid with cancer, you can go there, you can get some support, you can have a nice little break. They'll take the kid away and do some stuff with him. Mum and dad can sit and have a glass of wine and just chill for a bit. So we did a 650 challenge, and the 6 is more than 1 million metres in memory of my mate. So there were 6 ends. And more than 1 million metres in memory of my mate in 50 hours. And it's in 50 hours because I chose to do it on Remembrance Weekend in 2022. And we started at 8:30 on the Friday morning, and we had to be finished by 10:30 on the Sunday morning so that we could have a quick shower, put number ones on, and be outside for the 11 o'clock to do the silence. And you know what? We did it at Pompey Rugby Club, and there were over 200 young kids. Forgive me if I fill up on this one. I'll try not to. There were 200 kids, minis and middies. And we'd said they knew what was going to happen. There was going to be 2 Matlows stood there in uniform. We had the CD and the iPhone version of the sound, the last post and all that stuff. So we pressed it. We heard the guns go off in the dockyard. We pressed it, and then I read the old "They shall not grow old as we grow old." And the Nippers had made, out of their own goodwill, a little rosette of poppies out of paper. They coloured it and they made this little, and they just came. They parted and they stood up and they just leant underneath and put it in front of me and Doc, and I'm like that, blubbing, absolutely blubbing. But we raised basically we sat on watt bikes and did more than 1 million metres, so we had to do over 100,000 metres, 10,000 kilometres, basically, to do 1 million metres between two of us.
10,000,
10,000 kilometres in 50 hours. It took us I think we had 18 saddle goes each, 18 turns in the saddle. By the end of it, my arse was absolutely killing me. I was sitting on razor blades towards the end of it.
It's 1,000 kilometres, isn't it?
Is it 1,000 kilometres?
Yeah,
sorry, I'm blowing smoke up your arse. Check me out. 1,000 kilometres. You should do the maths then. So 1,000 kilometres, 500 kilometres each in 50 hours, which when you're on a watt bike, sounds relatively easy until you get to the 10th, 11th, 12th time in the saddle and you can't walk. You think, Christ, I've still got 25,000 to go or 250 kilometres to go. But anyway, we did it. We did it with about an hour and a half to spare. We managed to get some kip in, but we're doing it again this year. And I'm trying to get other rugby clubs involved. So if you're in a rugby club and you can get 2 watt bikes or other bikes that can measure accurately to 2 decimal points, you've got 2 people and 2 people only that are willing to put themselves through it over 50 hours to do more than 1 million metres. You can raise money for whatever charity you want, but we will be setting up a Just Giving page very, very soon, and it'll be out there. I will send you the link as when it's set up. So hopefully you could put it in the, the chat and everything.
Absolutely,
It's a very simple thing to set up. 2 watt bikes, start at 8:30 in the morning, finish by 10:30 on a Sunday, cycle as much as you can, do more than 1 million metres, raise money for charity. It's that simple.
Okay.
And I'd like the M650 challenge to keep Sid's name alive, to maybe roll on every year. Maybe we can get Leicester Tigers and Saracens and all of the Premiership clubs involved. Maybe they can do it with their chairman or their head of S&C. It doesn't have to be players.
Let's speak to Pete Scrivener at Wasps Legends. Let's see if he can help us.
Somebody somewhere in a rugby club, and maybe with all this paraphernalia, you can do I've said to you before, can you do the the podcast or whatever, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're now going live to Kenilworth. And how are we getting on at Havant? What's Pompey doing? Where's Tigers? Who have we got on there for Tigers?
If there's an opportunity for me to be front and centre, Kerry,
I'm the only thing really.
Okay.
Other than that, it's just stay positive. Stay positive.
So, well, I was going to ask you. So we've talked about the dark moments. We've talked about this kind of identity and transformation from Navy into kind of Civvy Street. But your heart will never be to Navy. You'll always have a thing.
We've got dog called Shippers.
Come on, Shippers. Yeah,
Morning,
exactly.
Shippers.
We talked about discipline and service. We briefly touched on faith. And
apologies if I offended you there.
No.
That's just
never. Look, there's still time to work on you, Kerry. And
my mum's a Methodist. She loves me, but she doesn't like me.
She loves you and likes you, Kerry. Don't be like that. But look, I think just the last bit, and I know we touched about it with the don't do that thing that might be there. And I think alcohol, whilst it's part and parcel of our culture, is something I still enjoy drink, right? But when I've been at my lowest, that's when I need to not go near it, because that's when I'm at my weakest. And certainly I've learned that. Stay away.
The black dog's pouring it.
Exactly.
Exactly. You're not.
Exactly. Yeah, you're quite right. So if you are feeling
without opposable thumbs,
down,
that's quite.
But look, there'll be men listening or viewing this, feel broken, destitute, whatever it is going on in their lives. What would you say to them?
The fact that you're sat watching this and listening to this says you're reaching out for something to hang on to, which says that you've got a part of you that wants to survive, and follow it, listen to it, believe in the fact that there are people out there, and you might not have met them yet, who are there for you. Talk to people. We're in that group of 110, 102, whatever, of bodies, and it's quiet for months, and then suddenly someone says, "I've had a bad day today." Bang! Floods of love saying, "Guys, yeah, I've had that. I did this." You're not alone, and it's okay to feel shit. It's okay to realise that you can't do what you once could, or that your body's failing you, or you've got something wrong with you, or you perceive something wrong with you. That's okay. What's not okay is to give into it. You're stronger than that, and it's just recognising that you do have an inner strength. You've got so much strength inside you. Lean on it, and lean on the strength of others. Know that they genuinely give a shit. They do. They genuinely give a shit. So go to people, talk to them. Go and stay at their house.
Yeah.
If you think I don't want to be alone tonight, don't be. Go and stay on someone's couch.
Yeah.
No one's going to say no.
Yeah.
No one's going to say no.
Well, get in touch as well. If you feel that there's something that's actually tugged on something within you, can I say that?
Absolutely. That's not a metaphor. That's not a metaphor. Give you knowledge and pull you off at half time. Yeah.
Send a message. Assist in any way we can, right? So look, I suppose just to finish, look, this is why we forge through fire. It's through fear, and ultimately we rise again, which is exactly what you've done. Listen, I just want to thank you very much for being the first guy on the podcast and sharing your fire with us, sharing your journey. And I think we've got a really great season ahead of us. And we'll see how this goes, right? But if there's a chance to get you back on, then we'll do that. And we'll maybe focus on various elements, because you've got such a breadth of stories. There are so many elements that I could just dive into, but I think this would be 8 hours long. So if you'll be happy to come again, that'd be great.
I'd be delighted, and thank you for inviting me.
No.
And what a great initiative. The fact is, you're doing this to help people, because I know for a fact that, yes, we both got egos, but this isn't about your ego. This is about your genuine love of the human race and love of mankind. And yes, I mean mankind, to help them. And I think it's remarkable. And you never mention my tattoo.
Tell us about the tattoo before we go. Final bit
is Smithy. If you're listening, thank you so much for this. Wayne Smith got this translated for me into Maori. I worked with him when he was with Saints for a bit, and I have a phrase that I say always. In the last 15 to 20 years, I came up with a phrase that was, "From whence I came, that which I am, that which I was, that which I am, that which I'm yet to become." And because I absolutely adore rugby, something in me said, I want that in Maori. It's the language of rugby for me, is Maori. So I had it transcribed into Maori for me, and that basically says it's a journey, and it's a journey, and it's going to be ups and downs, and you might not even be able to pronounce it or read it, but it's a journey. Get out there and enjoy the journey.
Love it, Kerry. I think you should do Pukana at the end.
No.
Is that cultural?
My version is Humpa Tu Dumpa. So we won't go there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kerry Packer, we will put the link for the fundraising there, the 6M
M650 challenge.
M650 challenge. And we'll have various other links. But so thank you very much, Kerry. Pleasure.
Absolute pleasure, brother.
Being in the forge. My bad. That's it. Then we're done. Superb.